Hi everybody. It's going to be a small group today. I know this is such a sexy topic, right? How do you fund your business? But it is essential. It is really important. And so thank you so much for joining us today. So my name is Rachel, and then that's Mandy. She's also a business advisor with the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center. As a little reminder, we do present monthly here at Tech Alley, and we talk about the different resources that we can provide to you, whether as business advisors with the SBDC. So we provide one-on-one, confidential, no-cost consulting, mentoring, coaching for the small startup company that's looking to launch, grow their business, looking for marketing strategies, putting together business plans so they can look for external funding to support their business. So that's kind of what we do. Every business advisor has a different specialty. Mandy kind of comes in with a lot of experience on the marketing, digital marketing side. Sorry, I spoke for you.
No, please do, feel free.
And then my background is I had my own staffing agency for about 15 years. So I'm a small business owner. I also have a tech company. And so I understand this community and the different challenges. And yeah, so we tag team a lot. And so hopefully together we can help support you guys and really kind of figure out what you need in terms of resources. And then the beauty partnering with UNLV is we have access to a lot of their resources, whether it's through their intellectual property, the patent and trademark office. We have a center there at UNLV. Whether it's working with our engineering team, med school, Lee Business School for internships to help you grow your business.
And on the marketing side, our data library is a phenomenal resource. If you're looking for, data sets that are normally going to cost you like thousands of dollars, UNLV can get them to you for free. So please utilize that, because that's a big one. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so make sure you reach out to us. And it's really simple. At the end, I'll have our email addresses. I think there's even a QR code there. But you would just register with us at the SBDC. Let us know that you met us here if you would like to work with us, or they will assign you to a business advisor that aligns more with what you guys are looking to do. But we're here as a resource for you. So today we're going to talk about funding, right? There are a lot of different strategies for doing that. We get a lot of startup companies that say, hey, I have an idea. This is what I want to do. It's great, but I need money in order to actually see it through. In the tech community, we hear a lot about, hey, I've got this great idea. I've got advisors. I've got tech, IT people, developers, people to partner with, but we need funding for an MVP. So all different stages. Some are already established, and now they're looking for growth strategies. They're looking at, now I need to increase my marketing budget, right? And so where do we get that money? If you're generating revenue, that works, but are there business loans and grants out there that can help support that so you're not digging into your own personal pocket, right? That's kind of the goal for these things. Then that's what we're going to try to help you guys with. So primary challenge, funding, we hear it at all stages. Innovation-based businesses, especially, right? What do those expense buckets look like? Oftentimes, if you're a startup, if it's your first business, or even if you're just deep in the weeds of what you're trying to develop, you forget some of these things. Employee salaries, you've got, payroll taxes that have to be factored into the budget. A lot of people forget about that, right? Facilities, are you going to lease a space? Are you looking to purchase a building? Equipment, patent and legal costs. I have somebody that's looking to license her business, and in order to do that, there's all these costs associated with it. And she's like, oh, dang, I didn't know that it could get that costly. Overhead, just cost of running your business. Business development, what do those business strategies look like? Do you need somebody to develop your website? Networking, hosting events, those sort of things. Marketing and sales, digital marketing. So it just goes on and on. And what we find is that the funding options are kind of stage specific, right? When you're pre-venture, when you're just starting, I have an idea, I have a concept, You're bootstrapping, you're paying off a credit card. This is at least typical from a lot of the clients that we service. And then as small business owners, we all kind of know what that looks like. You're bootstrapping, you're asking your friends and family to believe in you and to invest in your vision. At startup, okay, now you're a little bit further along, you've got your website, maybe an MVP. Are there grants available? You know, how do I tap into the angel investor community? What other loans are available? And then for the tech community in particular, we have these tech incubators and accelerators that want to help you hone in on your product and your concept, but they also give you access to the investor community.
I want to harp on the pre-venture stage too, because we get a lot of clients at the SBDC who have not started their business yet. They don't have their licensing, they don't have their organizational structure set up, but they're looking for funding, right, in order to get those things accomplished. And in our experience, and I'll let you talk a little bit more on the traditional funding side, it's near impossible, I would say, for a pre-venture business to get any kind of business capital, especially when you're looking at grants and things that are federally or state funded, in my experience. So really you are kind of looking at that bootstrap friends and family until you're able to, you know, start up, get your business licensing, get your business bank account, kind of start making those moves. One that we're going to talk about requires that you've been in business for a year before you can even apply. So just think about those things as well. If you are in this pre-venture stage, a lot of funding is going to be locked up until you get your business off the ground, at least a little bit.
Perfect. So now business loans, right? Traditional, non-traditional loans. People, oftentimes startups are like, well, I just need a business loan. They come to us thinking the SBA actually gives out loans. The SBDC is really just a branch of the federal government through the SBA. When the government says we are investing in small business, the funding comes from the SBA, and they fund centers like us to go out and reach out to the business community to see how we can help them build and grow their businesses. So a lot of them come to us and they say, okay, we need a loan from you guys so that we can start our business. So what we try to help them with is, like Mandy was mentioning, like you have to have the legal formation already done, you have to have your tax ID number, your business account. There's some fundamental things that you have to have already established. And then what are the things that the banks, the traditional lenders and even non-traditional lenders are looking for? It's too hard to just go in and say, this is my idea, this is what I need in funding. They want a business plan. It's almost mandatory to have a business plan. So that's something where the SBDC will come in, business advisors will come and help you create that business plan. They're going to look for financials. They're going to ask for your personal tax records if you have no business history. But then also projections for this new business that you just had an idea about. How do you do your projections on that? So we try to help throughout that process so that you are ready to submit for these loans. So when we look at the traditional business loans, now we're looking at banks, right? Banks, credit unions, and then the SBA comes in, and if it's a little bit riskier for the bank, the SBA, if you qualify, will guarantee the loan, much like an FHA for a mortgage. So we're not actually providing the loans, we're just guaranteeing it with federal dollars. And the new requirements are, they request that you've been in business for 3 years. So how does that help the startup community, right? They will ask for 3 years of personal tax returns. It used to be 2. They increased that to 3. FICO score, your personal credit score of 680 to 720. I just met with one of my bankers and they're like, you know what, we're tightening lending right now, and if you have no experience in a startup, we're hoping that they have 750 credit score. So it's really interesting having access to the right lender, because they all have different parameters and they all have a different portfolio of companies that they're looking to help. So I think being able to tap into the right lender is also really important. And then collateral requirements, they are looking for personal assets. If you don't have an established business, is there equipment? Do you have a car? Do you have equity in your home? So they are still asking for those things. And then easiest if the business loan is for equipment or a company vehicle, which can be used as collateral. What we are finding is Sometimes it's easier to do an acquisition loan, purchase an existing business that has assets, versus starting from scratch, needing a loan so that you can build that out yourself. If you were to do that and you were to, you needed the loan for equipment, take out a separate equipment loan versus a traditional business loan. And then they would use that equipment as collateral. It's actually a lot easier to qualify for that. So a lot of little tricks, and I think in working with a business advisor, we can help kind of get some clarity to see which is the best strategy for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at the SBDC, our office in particular that's, out of Blackfire, like you were mentioning earlier, we do have a handful of advisors who have come together to form like a pseudo lending center where they've got extensive experience in business banking. And so what we'll do, for example, just to kind of give you an idea of how we can help you with this tangibly, if you come to me or to Rachel and you say, hey, I'm looking to get ready for some, lending, I want to put together a lending application, what we'll do is we'll tell you, here's the documents you need, like what Rachel's just mentioned. We will help you get those together from our knowledge and expertise, and then we're going to send you over to our colleagues who make up the lending center, and we're talking decades of business banking experience, and they're going to go over it with like a fine-tooth comb and say, here's what the lender on the other side of the desk is going to be concerned about. Here are some tips for you to address that before you get to the bank. So if this is something that you are looking for, or maybe think that you're going to be looking for in the future, it's really important, get your business stuff on paper as fast as you can, start building up that business history, and then come chat with us so that we can give you some more fine-tune tips on how to look good for the bank.
Yeah, there's some things where it's like they want to know that you understand your business model, how you're going to generate revenue. They want to know that you understand the market and the competition, and they want to feel confident in your plan for the future and growing your business. So a lot of this just has to be apparent in the business plan, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not just a summary of what you were doing in the business. It's actually a whole longer plan. So those are important things for them they still look at. And then non-traditional business funding, they're easier to qualify than traditional bank loans. You've got your online lenders, your peer-to-peer lending. You've probably heard of some of these companies. There's the equipment loan financing, which we talked about, factoring accounts receivables. There's certain industries like in manufacturing and apparel, right? They purchase the products from overseas. How do they pay to have those products manufactured and then shipped over here? So they rely on accounts receivable financing or factoring so that the supplier is paid up front, and then once they receive the goods and they sell it, then they repay that on certain terms. So that's actually becoming more and more popular. I'm hearing that with staffing companies as well, where they need to pay payroll on Friday, but they're not going to get paid from their client for 30, 60 days, and so they need to factor or roll over that receivable line. And then CDFIs, community development financial institutions. Are you familiar?
Yeah, so in the state of Nevada, we don't have very many CDFIs, but they are, they're funded by a combination, and forgive me because I am reading off of the slide just to kind of compact it. It's a lot of information to remember, so forgive me. These entities are funded by a combination of like your government money and your private money, and they come into a fund, and these entities will lend to applicants who are maybe too high risk for the bank, right? And the way that they make this up is they have more aggressive lending terms than you would find if you qualified for a traditional bank loan. So maybe their terms are shorter, their interest is higher, but they're willing to lend to an applicant that maybe a bank wouldn't be able to lend to. Like I said, there's not a ton of CDFIs in the state of Nevada. One that I do know is the Women's Business Opportunity Fund. Leah Jenkins is the executive director of that organization. So that's a good one if you are a majority woman-owned business. But yeah, that's essentially what you're getting with the CDFI is they take on riskier applicants, but they have, they charge you for it.
Prestamos is another one. So it's interesting, oftentimes like the banks we'll have, come on in guys. So oftentimes the banks will have a client, right? And they submit their application for a loan and they try their best because obviously they want to be able to fund that loan. But then they'll come back and say, you know what, they're just a little too risky. Maybe remember they're very, very stringent in terms of their qualifications, the requirements. And so if they're, at a 650, basically you plug in the number in this portal and it kicks it out and says not approved, right? But that's still fundable for other lending institutions like CDFI. So they may come in and say, we're a little bit more flexible. We want to know you as a whole person. We want to know what your personal circumstances is that led to this, and let us see if we can help you. And oftentimes they are motivated more by the impact that your business has on the community itself. So the clearer you are on your vision and the more that you can say there's a benefit to the community, then it's easier for them to take that into account. And then of course here in the tech community we talk a lot about crowdfunding, private investors, angel investors, venture capitalists, so there's always that way to go. Oftentimes when you're in that startup mode, right? I have a concept, I'm still developing it out, a lot that needs to be fine-tuned. They're not really quite ready yet. But when you are ready, you think you might be ready, let us help you, whether it's helping you put together a marketing deck, a pitch deck, reviewing your business plans, those sort of things.
And I would say too, it's great to engage with organizations like the SBDC earlier than you think you need to, because we're poised to be able to tell you, like, if you are planning for this and this is your industry and this is your product, this is a good roadmap for you to use, and sometimes that requires more time than we think, right? So if you're not sure, if you just want to verify, I highly recommend reaching out to us because we can help you identify like what a good path forward for you would be.
Something as simple as you go into the bank, you want to do an application for a loan, and they say, when did you start your business? And it's like, well, I just formed my LLC on Thursday. Right? But I've been working on it for a couple of years. Why don't you do your legal formation early? And when they say, what have you been doing since then? Well, I've been doing market research, I've been doing product development. So you've been working in the business. So the earlier, once you make that commitment to yourself, and we love to help make sure that you have some clarity, make sure it's feasible and reasonable for you to pursue these things. But once you've made that commitment, this is what I want to pursue, let us help you get that structured and create a plan so that it's part of what you're communicating to these potential lenders and investors, right? It's like, I've been working on it. Maybe we're still pre-revenue, maybe we don't have we're not in beta yet, but I've been working on it. And so we want to be able to show that. And then we're going to talk about grants. There are a lot of state and federal grants, a lot of private grants too, that it's really just hard to keep up with. We get a lot of calls from our clients, and sometimes they just need $10,000 to get started, to cover some of the startup costs, right? To implement their marketing strategy, buy some sponsored ad stuff on social media. And then others where it's like, I need a storefront, I need some equipment, I need some inventory. And there are micro loans available, and they consider that anywhere from 10 to 50,000. It's usually under 50,000, right? And those are a little bit easier to qualify for. And then others that are like, I want to get a grant. And I will say that for those micro grants, that there are quite a few, but oftentimes the windows are very short. So check in regularly, kind of do the homework. Even if we gave you a list, it might change again next month. But we get clients that also come in and say, I don't want a loan, I don't want to pay it back, I want government money to fund me, and I need $150,000 for this concept. Well, that's hard to do. That's really hard to do. But not to say that it can't be done. It just has to be the right type of business, fitting into the specific type of grant that's looking to fund your type of business. So different state and federal grants. We'll start with SSBI, the State Small Business Credit Initiative, and that's with the state of Nevada.
Yeah, so again, forgive me because there are a lot of these programs that we're going to talk about, and all of them have their own different requirements and definitions. So I'm going to be referencing these slides a lot just because I don't want to misinform anybody, and it's a lot to keep in the index, right? So SSBCI was designed to kind of leverage this, private capital in the form of loans and investments to small businesses, and specifically underserved communities and entrepreneurs who have historically had a difficult time getting any kind of funding for their business. And part of this is because there is a big gap where you are in this pre-venture stage. Maybe you have a great idea, maybe you have the right team, but it's going to take you a little bit of time and assistance to get to the point where maybe you qualify for that traditional funding. So these programs come around because they are attempting really to act as like a bridge to get you from this phase of your business to a point where you can qualify for that traditional funding. So the two capital programs that I really want to impart to you, if you don't take anything else away from this presentation, it's number one, call your SBDC. Number two, the Battle-Born Growth programs are a fantastic way for you to learn about what's available and also to apply and get connected, right? So we have the Battle-Born Growth Microloan, Battle-Born Venture Capital, and we're going to talk about it, but all of those live in this portal right here, Battle-Born Growth. And you can just go onto this website, you can fill out the, oh my gosh, what is it? It's like a questionnaire, yeah, exactly. And based on your responses, they'll recommend you either a program or some technical assistance, right? So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. Yeah, so the microloan. And again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is the one that I was referencing earlier. In order to qualify for this, you have to have operated in the state of Nevada for 1 year or more at the date of your application. So what I want to impart on you is don't wait to file that business license if you think you're going to need funding at some point, because you are not going to find anyone to give you money from any kind of government agency, institution, bank, whatever, if you filed your business license yesterday, right? So get it done early, track all of your personal investment, track everything that you're doing, because there are requirements such as this on virtually every funding source. So let's see, so access up to $250,000, right, to purchase equipment, expand operations, bring on new staff, or otherwise advance your business. So that microloan program is really great for ventures who don't need a lot of capital, but they need some, right, more than what they can put in their own venture. So if that kind of fits what you're looking to do, this is a great resource. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Jason.
So for that, the last one, and then the one before that, do you need to already have revenue, or can you apply pre-revenue?
I think there is a go forward one, because I think you make less than $5 million in annual revenue. I don't know exactly if you have to have revenue. Are you familiar? Do you know?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because it had typically been you have to generate revenue, right? How much revenue really depends on your business and what's typical for that business. So part of the challenge right now with the tech community and for the banks is so many in tech sit in pre-revenue while they're still developing the product, but they're still an existing business and they still need funding. And that's why, because of that challenge, most turn to angel investors and private investors, right, and VCs. But the banks still want to be able to support that. So that's so it really just depends. But the more that you can present to them, hey, I'm pre-revenue, but this is the business model and we are close. Or I have a sponsor, or I funded it so much and I've got some buy-in and validation with a couple of small pre-seed, angel investors. Once you start showing that and the viability and your proof of concept, then it makes it easier for them to say, that's that little bit of a gap that we need to figure out how to bridge. But traditionally, you have to have revenue.
And sorry, go ahead, please.
And are both of these two programs linked to your personal finance in order to qualify, or just your business finance?
So because you would be forming this under your business, if you don't have business credit history, they will look for a personal guarantee. So you're basically qualifying personally, but you're establishing business credit history. If you have business credit history under another business, that could count, right? Maybe it's not under that, but from a management historical perspective, they say, oh, this person knows how to run a business. They understand operations and budgets and all of that stuff, and it makes it easier for them to qualify you.
And the LLC will protect your personal.
Absolutely. So a lot of people start and they think, I'm a sole proprietor, I'm a single person, but sole proprietorship, even if you register with the state of Nevada, gives you no legal protection whatsoever. By default, any business that you start today, you're a sole proprietor. For tax purposes with the IRS, by default, if you don't register anything, you're sole proprietor. You're going to get taxed at the highest level possible. Forming an LLC, even as a single member, as one person, if something were to happen and somebody wanted to say, sue the company, you personally, your personal assets are protected under that LLC. And so you want to have that separation even early on.
Yeah, and I would say too with your questions, and for anybody who has more specific questions about these Battle-Born growth programs, reach out to us. That's going to be like my broken record thing for this whole presentation, because we do have folks who are more knowledgeable about the fine print of these programs beyond our own knowledge. And sometimes it is just a matter of storytelling, right? Like you were explaining. Even if you maybe don't have this thing, but you have all this evidence that proves that you're,
Exactly.
Not a high risk, that's definitely part of the application process as well. Yeah.
And you want to remember that through all of these loan programs and grant programs, they want to give you money. They want to fund it. They've got this pool of money. Who are we going to give it to? So who is the most prepared? And so that's our goal, is to help get you prepared so that you could be part of that process.
Yeah, so the Battle-Born Venture program is more what you would traditionally think of as like, pitching and investing and raising funds for a highly scalable tech company. Nevada is very unique in that there is state funding for programs like this, where we're looking at highly scalable tech companies. So this is one of those programs that uses the SBCI funds in order to promote that kind of growth.
So at the very bottom there, where it says who it's for, it says for startups, but you need to have a lead investor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Battle-Born Venture program can't be the lead investor, but if you have gone through the process and you have already secured that lead, then you can also access these funds as well.
Could the lead investor be the business owner?
Unfortunately, I do know that. That's one, because we get that question sometimes. The owner can't be the lead investor for the purposes of this program either, unfortunately.
Do you know what sort of, sorry, now I'm asking a question. Do you know what sort of documentation is required for them to prove that who the investor is? Do they need to be an accredited investor?
For this program, I'm not sure what those requirements are, but Caitlin would know, and that's why if you have more questions or you want more information, like you think this might be a good fit, but you need a little more details, I'll give you my card and connect you with Caitlin, and she's going to be able to answer your questions. Okay, perfect. So SBIC, Small Business Investment Company. So again, these are like, I keep moving over here, I apologize. These are another example of like your federal and private partnership dollars going into a big pot and then being hopefully connected with entrepreneurs who need the capital. Very similar to the SSBCI, and we'll talk about, it's acronym soup up here. SBIR, STTR, similar in concept, but we just wanted to let you guys know of all the different pots of money that exist, right, that are meant for a little bit different case scenarios. So this is another one. You can see over here the types of companies that have been, partly funded or invested in by SBIC. So if you identify with any of those companies, this one might be right for you. And again, it's like innovation focused, so more tech development.
So the SSBCI is state, right? So that's Nevada State, and then the SBIC is national funds. So those are federal funds. Interesting, we came back from our national conference in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, and one of the speakers was an actual SBDC client. And they brought up the actual business advisor, and they talked about their initial concept and how we were able to help, and then through federal funds and everything else, how they were able to grow their business. So is anybody here familiar with Elf on the Shelf? That's them.
Yeah.
And so it was twin sisters, and they just came up and shared their story, how this was a family tradition and they wanted to turn it into a business, sat down with a business advisor, they put together business plans, and were able to get them connected to some funding, and look at what it is today. So I thought that was really cool. Not a tech company, but still a very cool story.
So for the last few programs that you mentioned, including the Battle Bond, this one too, if funding is approved, does the entrepreneur need to give up some equity, or it's not equity-based funding?
So in these cases, they do not give up equity. The federal programs, well, SBIC, I believe SBIC, but the SBIR, which we're going to go over in a second, and the STTR, those do not do any equity share.
No, there is a bullet point, just to spoil it for you. Depending on the dollars or where they're coming from, because I think the STTR is federal funding, and so there are some use requirements, right? They might have to license, the federal government might have to license the product from you, but there is no equity that has to be surrendered.
Right.
Yeah, so I love this graphic because it does a great job of kind of illustrating, this private and public partnership, right? All these programs, in my opinion, from my experience, it's private investors and it's government coming together to essentially triple the initial investment from the private venture funds, and then that money is a pot that then gets distributed to small businesses, and that's really the foundation of all these programs. So here, I'm not going to read this to you because it's a lot of information, but feel free to take a picture. There's some broad impact numbers, which I always think is really cool to see how much money these entities are actually, sharing with our small businesses and our entrepreneurs and inventors and things like that. The impact is really impressive. And then we also have some what you are allowed to do with this money and what they're not able to invest in. So importantly, real estate businesses, farmland purchases. This made me laugh. Businesses contrary to public interest. I don't exactly know what they're referring to when they say that, but I guess they have to have some kind of
I don't know.
Yeah, right. What's contrary to public interest here? But yeah, so feel free if you want more information about that, or you want to keep it, take a picture.
What I'd love to see here is for 2023, right? What was the impact to our small business community? How much money was actually invested and funded these businesses? So in the billions, I think it shows the commitment to the program and the success of the program. And it was also interesting when we were chatting with, with our cohorts and everything, kind of the overwhelming response when we talk about the challenges to these programs is access. Clients don't know these exist. Small business owners don't know these exist. They don't know the pots are there and that they really want to lend it to you. So what do we need to do to get you ready and to get you to submit? And I thought that was really interesting because how come everybody's not applying? Because they are also saying if they don't fit within this box, have them apply anyways. Because we just don't have enough people applying. So let's see what we need to do to get them to fit within that box so we can approve them. So I thought that was really interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the SBIR and the STTR, that's your, even more so, and the previous programs are also, available for technology developments, right? We love innovation here, especially in the state of Nevada. But these specifically are designed for tech transfer. So they're looking to fund things that are going to have community impact, right? Things like medical advancements, communication advancements, things that are community focused, right? Making our lives better. And also utilizing, in our case at UNLV, right, university resources in order to get you from concept to prototype to commercialization. Yes, so, and again, forgive me, because I'm not super familiar with the details of all of these programs. Again, there's a lot of them. They all have their different requirements. But the point is, right, we're looking to assist you. America's Seed Fund is looking to assist you develop the technology and get you to the point where now you're going to market. That's the whole the whole purpose of the program. So how it works: phase 1, proof of concept; phase 2, technology development; and then again all the way down to commercialization. This kind of gives you an idea to the timeline that you're kind of looking at. And that's something that I do want to harp on a little bit, because as SBDC advisors, we work with a very diverse amount of founders, entrepreneurs, every kind of industry you can possibly imagine, every kind of business model you can imagine. And so we get a lot of folks who come in, and again, they're thinking, I'm going to start a business tomorrow and I'm going to see profit by the end of the month. And that's just not always how it works. Honestly, it's almost never how it works. So harping on, if you have an idea, get started now, because it's going to take you a long time to get to where, you're dreaming of. And that kind of, again, gives you an idea of what kind of timeline we're looking at.
Yes.
So what are the numbers below the 6 to 12 months and 24? What do those mean? Is that the amount of funding?
I think that is funding you can access, yeah.
Amount of funding. Is there And a key thing, both again with the SBIR and the STTR, it is part of that partnership, right? The government is helping to fund and kind of helping with the development of your product, taking it to commercialization, but they don't take any equity, no IP rights, nothing.
Yeah, so again, this is kind of just harping on, similar point. This is designed to assist businesses in the R&D stage, right? Because especially if you're developing, really intricate technology, it's going to take you a lot of testing, a lot of redoing, and that costs a lot of money, right? And luckily, our federal government realizes this and wants to partner with entities that can help you get to that point, and also fund, if not in full, in part, your process in doing that, right? Because we want to see technology advancements, but it's expensive, and regular people can't fund something like that. So again, this is kind of looking at the focus, the eligibility, the collaboration, and then the phases. So the eligibility, I think, is important because, again, everyone has their own different requirements. Everyone's looking for different things. But small businesses must partner with a nonprofit research institution, right? So that's where the universities come into play, or federally funded research labs. And they must be for-profit and meet certain size standards. So luckily, we live in a city that has a fantastic university for this. I will champion UNLV until the day that I die. It's incredible. Absolutely. It's community driven. So if you are looking to do some R&D for your venture, please utilize those resources because they are available to you. And we love to chat with entrepreneurs and grow the small business community and the technology community.
And again, we really are looking to have more participation from the community. So it's not like it just exists and see if you can apply or see if you can ask questions about it. It really is welcoming. We want to know what you're doing. We want to know where you need help. We want to know how we can help bridge that gap so that we can make our our local economy, right, even stronger, but we want to be an integral part of that growth.
Yeah, and the SBDC, if you think about us like a house, right, the SBDC is the front door, right? So you're going to knock on the door, we're going to answer, you're going to tell us what you need, and we're going to take you to the dining room, the living room, whatever,
We're also
depending
the
on
kitchen,
what it is,
we're going
right?
to feed
The
you,
kitchen, yeah.
we're going to...
But that's, I love our program so much, and I know I'm biased because I work there, but it really is a fantastic way for you for free to say, here's my idea, here's what I want to do, what can I use? So, yeah.
So I think you touched on those.
Yeah, I think so. And again, if you want this slide deck, or to find out more information, let me know, because we don't expect you to memorize all this. It's our presentation and we don't have it memorized, it's a lot. So let us know if this was interesting to you and we can get you the resources.
And the videos on it.
Oh, right.
Perfect,
right,
yeah.
Another key thing with the STTR, I think she might have mentioned it a little bit, even though the institution will be a collaborative partner to the process, and they will not own any IP rights, any equity share, they will have, rights to use. in
Yeah, the
essence.
licensing.
The licensing,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty integral in that grant.
Yeah. So here's a little summary. I think we've summarized this
Yeah.
one pretty well. That's kind of the fun one. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so you're ready to apply for a loan, pitch to investors, or access capital to grow your business. Don't know where to start or which funding options are right for you. So need an extra set of eyes on your finances, legal structure, business plan, marketing deck, or credit. Please reach out to us. Let us know how we can help. We do one-on-one advising. Again, it is at no cost to you. We are primarily funded by the SBA, and so that means that's your federal tax dollars at work, right? So whether it's the first initial consultation, or if you're like, Mandy, I need a weekly accountability call, it's all at no cost to you. We also provide educational workshops, and then our advisors each has a different specialty, and then when we co-advise, it just makes your team stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Rachel and I co-advise all the time because my subject matter specialty is marketing. You know, if somebody comes to me and they're like, how do I write an operating agreement? I'm like, Rachel, help. And it's, again, it's completely free, right? And Albert would prefer we say no cost, but it's free, right? Your tax dollars have already paid for it. And there's no limit to the amount of times you can connect with us, the resources that you can use. It's as much or as little as you want to, right? I mean, it's the ball's in your court, so highly recommend.
So I do kind of want to go back. Can I just ask everybody here, what stage are you at? Who's still in that early stage? I have an idea, I have a concept, where do I start?
Pre-venture.
Pre-venture. And then who has already developed their product, they've got a strong business model, a strong revenue model, and they've got some marketing materials and just need to figure out how to get the funding so that they can move to commercialization. Okay.
Very nice.
Any other areas? Who's looking to grow their business? Okay, great. Any specific?
I have a group for inventors. It's
Yeah.
called the Vegas Inventors Group.
Okay.
And we meet at different times, and we don't charge. We're not attorneys, so take a chance.
That's great to know, because I have some engineer friends and they're always talking about little doodads that they make up or 3D print or, rig together in their garage. And I'm always in awe of people who do that, and it comes so naturally to them.
Sure.
So if you have a card, I'd love to, be able to share that resource with our clients. Okay.
Group.com,
Yeah.
and type in what you're interested in.
Yeah.
And you say, I'm interested within a 50-mile, and look and see what's there. Attend the meetings, and if it's going to help you, stay around. The other area for funding that you might consider for patent, the patent office has a group called Pro Bono.
Oh.
So if you are below a certain income level, you can go to them, and they will have attorneys that are becoming patent attorneys, and they will prepare your patents for you. And there's a professor will sign off on it. you still have to come up with the fees for filing.
Right.
But that's another source of income that's not
Sure.
directly associated, but that's free. And the
Yeah.
least they can do is say no. And then you also have a department at the UNLV library. They have a small desk there where it's tied into the patent office.
Yes.
And they can answer your questions, but they can't provide advice.
Yeah, that's Patrick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's free.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think,
Lot of
and
great
thank you so much
resources.
for sharing that. And I know we've talked in the past about maybe even hosting an event over at our Blackfire location at UNLV to try to create just a stronger community, right, with what we're doing. And it's one thing to be able to get together and to brainstorm and to see who's working on what, but then what? But then what, right? It's, are we looking at patenting processes? Are we looking at patenting our products? Are we looking at, trademark? What's the difference? Is it necessary anymore? A lot of platforms are plugging in different tenant applications type of things, different setups, white label platforms and such. And so what part is actually patentable? So sometimes it's a matter of, checking in with some of those experts. May not be legal advice, but there are some standard things that they can share. Our USPTO office, we have an actual center at UNLV, as he mentioned. They can do the patent searches for you. They can help you with even like the NAICS codes, right? The industry standard codes. They're old. They're old, they haven't updated them, and there are a lot of things that fall in tech and that fall into, arts and entertainment that aren't represented. And so they can kind of help, because a lot of the funding, when you start looking at government funding and bidding opportunities, right, for federal grants and for state grants, they all rely on NAICS codes. They're all looking at, this grant will apply to these specific business code type of operations. And if you don't fall within them, or if you're picking the wrong code because you think, oh, I'm professional services versus a technology platform or whatever, then you may not have access to those grants. So there's a lot of little tricks and stuff that we still have to kind of figure out how to maneuver through, because technology for the government hasn't quite caught up to the technology the way that we're doing business. So. But yeah, internally at UNLV we have a lot of resources, so please reach out to us and let's see if we can help you. Any challenges that you guys are seeing, or where are you at your stage of business where you're looking for help, needing help?
Who do we contact for a copy of the slides? Get the business started.
Yeah, and actually, if you want to, there's our email addresses if you want to reach out to us.
I do have cards in
You
my
do?
purse.
I have a digital card.
Yeah.
So.
That's so techie.